So how did you come aboard Widows?
Well, I think somebody just, again, contacted the same agent, Ann Murtha, and requested an interview with Steve. And we had an initial interview, Skype, as it happens sometimes. If they're out of town, you're out of town. And I had recalled we had a meeting. We'd met in New Orleans 5 years prior to that Skype call. I'm sure he didn't remember at all. It was just a dinner.
For work, okay.
He was finishing 12 Years a Slave, and I was just beginning a show called True Detective. And we had random dinner, and I reminded him of that, and he's like, "Oh, yes, of course. Well, do you want the job?" As if he was sort of comfortable in that. So yes, please. And so that's sort of how it began.
That easy, yeah.
Well, a little bit of discussion, but I think it was him finding somebody that he was comfortable with. And, because the prior costume designer, unfortunately, had passed away that he worked with on 12 Years a Slave. And I know they had a wonderful relationship. And so, it was difficult for him to look for somebody new. And so we met, and it worked out fine.
Well, socioeconomics is a huge theme of the film, and I felt like everyone's outfits in the movie really reflected where they came from in Chicago. Was this something you and Steve discussed?
Yeah, that was very important for him from the get-go. So I actually landed in Chicago at the very beginning, and I started out by having my own kind of scout. They have a scout, films. And so I took my own scout, going to each of the neighborhoods that we were actually going to film in and where the scripts sort of thought that they were living. So I could see what was going on and, get to know Chicago a little bit. I'd spent a lot of time there younger, but these cities are evolving so fast and changing, and wanted to understand and get to talk to the neighborhood and people, which was wonderful. And it was really an eye-opener and the story that he wanted to tell. And that was really important to him. And so that was the beginning. And then speaking, each of the characters themselves were very particular about, they'd done their own homework and from not only socioeconomic, but, their cultural background. Each of them had, Elizabeth was, part, gosh, I'm thinking, but she, each of them, part Polish, but she had a background of that, and then each of them, Dominic and Michelle, so they had their own, a little bit of their own part in that, so that they wanted to be particular too. So it was kind of very collaboration with all of us together.
I love Veronica's look because it reminded me of what I think The Good Wife started on TV, power dressing women, and like Viola fits in that too with How to Get Away with Murder. It's just very chic, like confident, like empowering clothing. So was that like a starting point for you of how you wanted Veronica to look? Yeah,
I think our starting point was definitely where she was from and what, she was from the teachers union, but there was a little bit of her house, her apartment, and we wanted just to sort of meld that together and show that she had some money, that she was definitely not, she would become somebody, but that's not where she began, but it was almost like she was sort of hiding behind that to a certain extent. So but she had grown into it too, so there was a comfortability there. And we wanted to keep it simple because, Veronica Viola herself is such a powerful, actress and character in itself. So I wanted to keep it very structured, very simple, but yet we reuse things again and again for her and multiple changes so that it didn't feel like she had this extensive wardrobe. She wasn't a woman that was all about her clothes, or I didn't want to portray that. Although
she wore a lot of white and very clean lines. Is that supposed to be like she's the leader, she's organizing?
I think in the beginning, certainly there was it was. I remember thinking to myself, what would a woman wear that I couldn't wear that I would be intimidated by? And that's definitely white. I can't go outside in white. It would be a mess.
No white after Labor Day, especially.
But it would be a mess, And so I would think it was that scene when she comes into the spa, first meeting the two women together, and that sort of intimidation and the way she carried herself. And I think that was the white. And it kind of helped in her arc, starting in the white.
Yeah, because then it turns into black.
Yeah, sure. It seems like a very simple thing, but I also wanted it to match the house, and that was a very steel and white and elegant kind of feeling. But it was also a little bit. I didn't want her to feel as if she was in mourning. I wanted her to speak to the outside world and saying, that she was carrying herself in a different way. I do have something to hide, but I can put a mask on, I can put something on to hide behind a little bit.
I think like the brightest color she wore was the red when she goes to Carrie Coon's house during the big reveal in the middle.
Yeah, exactly.
So did you purposely pick red?
I did, yes. And Steve had that was one day where we had a big discussion because why, he was sort of, I don't know, I'm a little nervous about the red. Is it too much? And I just thought it was definitely she was going there with the intention of a power move and trying to, persuade maybe Amanda into becoming the driver or making that move. And then I think that when it all turned, she sort of suspected it, and then so it was seeing her run across the street and understanding that even through this power, that this feeling that it was almost, then it became kind of sad a little bit that, everything crumbled and she knew it, but she couldn't say anything, and it was just, where was she going to go from there? And I thought it was just in the middle right there.
Yeah,
just
it's like a turning point.
Yeah, very specific. Yeah.
I feel like the other widows' wardrobe also evolved, and they started wearing more practical clothing for completing a heist, like jeans and jackets, and because I feel like in the beginning they just dressed as themselves, like in dresses. So how did you tailor each of their wardrobes?
Well,
to
I also
the
wanted it to feel like maybe Veronica had a little bit of influence on each and one of them, and showing a little bit. Maybe a little bit more confidence. Maybe that's where the colors kind of change, and also that they didn't, especially Alice's character, Elizabeth. She didn't have to feel like she was trying to portray something who she wasn't. Being a woman to sort of gain access to something or to get what she needed, and it became more relaxed. And it was definitely to get the job done. It became more practical for sure.
One of the biggest laughs in the movie is when Elizabeth walks in and it's the condom dress.
Yeah.
So was that the description of the dress in the script, or was it just a line? And how did you go about?
Well, that line was, was ad-libbed, but definitely by Michelle. But it was, it was something. I wanted it to feel like it was something maybe her mom had bought her. She wouldn't have been able to afford it. She didn't have the money. And, what could Elizabeth wear, so striking and beautiful that she is, that would be, so revealing or so obnoxious that it kind of what she thought and her mother thought that the potential man that she was, entering into this, evening with might find appropriate. So I thought it was a little not tacky and a little off, but it also
I liked it because like that bandage dress is like not in vogue right now.
Right. Right, and that was purpose too, because her mom, it was like as if her mom would gone out, she would think that was something.
You wear this tonight.
Yes, this is what's gonna get this man, get you money, and move you forward. And so that was just, it became hilarious with Michelle's sort of ad lib of that moment.
How did you design the heist jumpsuits?
Well, the heist jumpsuits were something that was was as if. As Veronica says, they need to think of as men, so we wanted to think of them as something maybe they ordered online that they could have gotten easily, all of the things. I mean, these are women that never done a heist. They don't know, how to make this, make it happen. So they order it all online. They order the boots, they order the jumpsuit, they order the mask, and then they tailor to fit them all. But of course, when you're working with very different women or anybody for that matter, you've got to sort of tailor them all similarly. And, they all don't have a hood. So you have to build them with the hood, and I put a little bit of shine in it so you could see it in the dark a little bit more. But I wanted it to give them a masculine, instead of being form-fitting. And so
it's like baggy. And,
so it was on a little bit.
Well, Cynthia Erivo has the most fit arms I've ever seen in my life. So did you just want to constantly show off her arms?
Yes. I thought it was showing a little bit, with her and Veronica, she was the one that came in, and she didn't need to please her, or she wasn't afraid of her. And so I think it was a little bit more of a power play too. She's a confident woman just trying to get the job done for her child. She wants to move up, and she's proud of who she is. And, that end scene with her boxing, it was just sort of, come on, let's just show it all off. I mean, she's got a beautiful figure and very proud of it. And I thought, let's just go for it.
How about the men? Because most of them are just in suits, but they're very distinct and individual. So how did you go about dressing them?
I think, for instance, Colin, he was, a typical politician of what you think about a navy blue suit or a gray suit, and keeping it simple. And then with Brian Tyree Henry, who was actually his opposite, we wanted to show that he you know, even though they did make money, we wanted to show a little bit that he was trying to play the game and maybe not getting exactly right. But was that his, you know, was that his ploy? Was that his way of going about it? Because he wanted to be different. He wanted to be offset from the, you know, the politician that went by the book. So we just did a little bit different color tones, you know, and maybe a little bit more ill-fitting than maybe what Colin was very pulled together. And
yeah, it's not as like sophisticated.
Exactly, exactly. And then, you know, with the other men, you know, with I think, well, you know, Liam, we saw him so briefly, but that was just, you know, dressing him chic, you know, giving him, he did have a little bit more money. And then Daniel Kaluuya's character, you know, that was just sort of.
It's like he had a weird jacket.
Yeah. It was, well, it was kind of, if you think about it, it kind of mimicked Veronica a little bit in the you know, the tonally thing. It was like him living in the same or different world, but at the same power feeling. You know, he really carried himself as being, he was in control, and he was in control of that neighborhood, and he didn't need to do anything for anybody else. It was all about himself.
I think everyone agrees the MVP of the movie is Olivia the dog. So was there ever any talk of dressing Olivia?
No, you didn't need to. She was perfect just the way she was.
But it gets cold in Chicago.
Yeah, she was fine.
Yeah,
she was fine.
You need to show off that fur.
She stayed inside most of the time.
She was in the deluxe sit and stay, so.
She's got her own Instagram, I think, now.
Yes, I'm following her. So everyone should follow her. Obsessed with Olivia the Westie.
She was also in Game Night, I think.
Yes, she was covered in blood in Game Night.
Yes, right.
So what are you working on now?
It's called Knives Out.
Rian Johnson.
Yes.
How's that going?
Fun. It's really fun. Having a great time.
Nice.
Cold, but having a good time.
Yes, that's in Boston, right?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, we'll look forward to that next year.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.